Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
And I think it comes back again to that idea of fear to be vulnerable is I'm going to want everybody to agree with me. So I'm going to create an echo chamber where
oftentimes we tell our high performers after we promote them into these leadership roles, oh, go forth and engage and inspire. What does that mean? Right? Well, it means connecting at the human level through compassion, courage, competence, and helping people feel like they're appreciated, like they belong, like they're included, and that their work matters, that they fit into the purpose of the organization, and they're making a difference in the lives of clients and colleagues, and even senior management. Leadership is so important that we should not just leave it up to chance. Thank you.
If you think we have a crisis in the business world when it comes to something called employee engagement, you're right. Here to shed some light on what's going on and what we can do about it is Lisa Anna Palmer, who is the author of a book called
Light a Fire in Their Hearts.
When you say light a fire on...
Do you ever wonder where the heck is this world heading to? You know, with life after COVID, AI everywhere, natural disasters, and the Great Resignation. You know, if you're scratching your head trying to figure out all what's going on and what it actually means for the workplace, then you're not alone. You know, I've worked in HR, organizational development, and leadership for over 25 years. And even in my circle of leadership specialists, we all agree that for better or worse, we're in the midst of a rapid evolution, I would say a revolution of the workplace. So if you're also wondering this, then you've tuned into the right place. I am Lisa Anna Palmer, founder and CEO of Light Your Leadership, Inc., author of the international best-selling Light a Fire in Their Hearts, and creator of Little Talks, a podcast. And today I am so pleased to be able to host the Light Your Leadership Summit. We have 8 VIP guests who are all renowned leaders who will help shed some light and share wisdom and strategies on how to lead more effectively and with purpose in this post-pandemic world. So let's begin our first segment. It's all about lifelong leadership development and lifelong leadership learning. So we're going to bring on 3 panelists who deal with different phases of leadership development. So the first person I'm going to bring on is Phil Maycomber. Hi, Phil.
Lisa, such a pleasure to be here.
Such a pleasure to have you. So I'm just going to say a few words about Phil. She's amazing. So Phil is CEO and president of Make a Difference, Inc. She's a practical assistive technology solutions, and she is the #1 best-selling author of Every Child Can Learn book series and the creator of The Pact. Phil was awarded the 2023 Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award and the I Am Woman of Inspiration Difference Maker Award. That's amazing. She is also the host of the podcast Every Child Can Learn and has been chosen by the Rise Her Network as one of the top 100 women to know in 2023. Wow. Such an honor to have you here, Phil. And I've had the honor of hosting shows with you before, and I know that you're going to bring so much value with respect to early leadership development.
Thank you, Lisa.
Next, we're going to bring on Solange Tuishime. Hi, Solange. Such an honor to have Solange. So Solange is the founder, president, and CEO of Elevate International. She's a global influencer, a Goodwill ambassador for UNICEF Canada. She's a former Miss Canada and current Mrs. Canada International. And Solange focuses on creating a better world for everyone by inspiring leaders of all ages, and especially working with young women and adult women as well, to adopt a culture of humanity first and gender equity at all leadership tables. Welcome so much. It's such an honor to have you here, Solange.
Thank you. Always happy to be with you, Lisa.
Thank you. And next, we're going to bring on Ryan Gottfredson. Hi, Ryan. How's it going?
Hi. It's going great. It's hard to complain when you live in Southern California.
Oh, that's right. That's good. Maybe you should come spend some time in Ottawa, in Canada. So Ryan is a PhD. He's a cutting-edge leadership development author, researcher, and consultant. Ryan is the Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestselling author of Success Mindsets, great book, The Key to Unlocking Great Success in Your Life, Work, and Leadership, as well as The Elevated Leader. He is a leadership professor at the College of Business and Economics at California State University, Fullerton, which I just found out is like the second biggest business school, right, in the U.S.?
In the United States, yeah, correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
very good. Very good. So this panel is all about lifelong leadership learning. So, while we were conducting some research with my team, we found a publication on Penn State Extension entitled Leadership and Children that states that there is a lot of debate whether some children are born leaders or are they do they learn to become leaders? The view of the authors of the article that we found was basically that all children have the potential to develop leadership skills. And leadership development can be a lifelong process. So love that. Now I'm gonna lead in with Phil, right? So Phil, can you tell us a little bit more about, what are your thoughts on this? Do you believe that leadership can be developed in children? What are your thoughts?
Leadership should be explicitly taught to children as early as preschool years, because we know that 50% of their brain develops in those years.
Wow.
And, teaching not only social awareness, but the importance of relationships, teamwork, and problem solving in those early years helps it in future years. So resounding yes.
Wow, I love that, and I'm curious to learn a little bit more what Ryan and Solange think about that as well. Go ahead, Ryan.
Sure. So, and I love, Phil, how you're bringing it back to brain formation. The cutting edge research on leadership development, no matter what age, is coming back to neuroscience.
Right.
And what we find is that to elevate as leaders, we literally need to reprogram our mind to operate in more effective ways. Here's what I see when I work with a lot of business leaders and executives is you've got some people that their brains are wired more for self-protection. They're afraid of failure. They're afraid of being wrong. They don't want any problems. They want to be the ones who are seen. They want to get ahead. And that's all self-focused. But the really great leaders are not self-focused. They're other-focused. They're purpose-focused. They create space for things like failure, problems, being wrong, because ultimately they're not about protecting themselves. They're about creating value for the world around us. And in order to develop as leaders, we've got to make that shift at a neurological level.
Yeah, I love that, because I feel like if someone had told me that when I was about 8 years old, I'll probably be an even greater leader than I am today, because I hesitated. I was all about how do we make this world better for everyone else? And I always felt like, then I'm not a great leader. I'm just a philanthropist who just want to make the world better for everyone. But I was very solution oriented. So I think to both of your points, from a young age, we need to redefine what leadership is and tell that to kids. So for example, when I see my girls take an initiative to bring a water bottle to someone who's working in our yard, that's leadership. You thought about someone. So I think from a very young age, we need to redefine what leadership is, what it looks like, and how it performs and shows up in the world. Because especially for girls, you're told a girl should do this, shouldn't do that, should act this way. And if they're anything but, like many of us who are very extroverted, who are ready to go, who wanted to take chances and risks, it wasn't acknowledged as great leadership skills. But for men, it was clearly defined as leadership skills from the get-go. Oh, that one is going to be the president of a country. So I think from a young age, we need to tell the kids what leadership is, and to also show them that it's going to show up differently for each and every one of them. Some of them will be soft-spoken, humble, with such a beautiful approach on how they find solutions. Other ones are just going to be go-getters and pave right into it and get it done. So we need to just see it and show them that it looks different for each and everyone else.
You know, what you're sharing is so powerful, especially, you know, having seen adults who maybe didn't have that early development. And as a coach, I'm often asking myself, I wonder if they would have maybe had exposure to early leadership development and social emotional skills earlier. Maybe they wouldn't get in, you know, situations of extreme conflict, or where they didn't have direction or vision as adults leading other people, right? So it makes me think, and in fact, there's a couple of researchers, they're Bilberry, Vega, and Molyneux, and they published an essay in the Journal of Management Organization in 2019. And they were quite clear. They said, you know, as you mentioned, Ryan, their brains are forming, and Phil, you said 50% is formed, right? So you got to hope that the next 50% is going to form the leadership piece if you kind of miss that critical period. And so they're advocating for more research in this area, because that's one of the findings, that there's not enough research. So, you know, there's opportunity here to grow our knowledge about this. So, but before we continue on, because we're going to continue on with Ryan and Solange too, talking about leadership in youth and leadership in adulthood, we're going to have a little tidbit from two correspondents from Leadership of the Future. We're going to kind of drive home the point that leadership can be taught at any age. So let's bring on Noah and Ava.
How are you?
Good.
Good. How old are you?
I'm 7. And I'm 8.
So I have a couple of questions. So the first one, and you can just take turns, okay? The first one is, what does leadership mean to you? What does
To me, I think it means like being a good boss, being a good employee.
Yeah, and how about you,
and
Noah?
Making stuff fair.
Thank you. And what about you, Noah? What do you think? What would you like to add?
I think it means treating other people good.
Treating other people good. Right. And how do you do that?
Well, let's say they need help on a project, you can help them.
Are you a leader?
Yeah, everyone's a leader.
You're a leader. So tell me more. Why are you saying that you're a leader?
Because everyone has a leader because their self is a leader.
Everybody's self.
You're a leader of yourself. You get to pick what you do. Some choices are bad.
Some choices are bad. What kind of choices are bad?
Like bullying, hurting.
So I understand from your mom that in class you help a lot. Can you tell me more about that?
It's just nice to help out with your friends.
Excellent. And what about you, Noah? Are you a leader?
Yeah, and if you really think about it, everybody's a leader because every day you're being a leader.
Now, Noah, when you made some amazing choices, and one I remember particularly because I was inspired by it, is how you got to have a bunk bed of your dreams. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I saved lots of money and until I got enough, and then I bought it.
So you had a vision for a bunk bed and what it looks like, and it's a really nice one too, right?
Yeah, it has lots of storage.
So that to me is big self-leadership, helping in class and also making decisions to save up for something that we really want, right?
Mm-hmm.
And being fair and all those wonderful things you said. Excellent. Well, you know what? We'll come back a little bit later on in the show to ask you what you want to know from leaders, okay? So stay tuned.
Wow. So, you know, and we'll bring them back a little bit later on because they had some pretty profound questions. But that drives home, I think, anybody who's doubting about the importance of, you know, talking about leadership to children, they know way more than we expect. So Solange, you know, you work with young women in the teen years as well, right? You're developing young women leaders. And what are some things that adults can do to support the leadership development of this age group?
Yeah. And, you know, I feel like for me, when I started, of course, I've always been passionate about girls, just how we show up how girls show up in this world. And I felt like I made a greater investment once I became a woman leader, because I could see some of the challenges we have to advance at the leadership table and had to figure out, how did we get here? How did we get to self-doubt? How did we get to hesitate? And you have to ask us 7 times if we want to take on a leadership position. Mm-hmm. And you start at a young age. And what I'm seeing from young women today is that they're very curious. They want to know, you know, how do I make this world better? How do I make this environment better? How do I create something innovative? And if there's something that I can share with everyone is see that leadership. But when you see it, don't be quiet about it. Make sure you let them know that you notice what that leadership skill is. Maybe they're silent leaders who create solutions and said, you know what I thought amongst our friends we can sell ice cream this summer and it'll be fun. Just acknowledge what that leadership skill looks like. Or I thought we could all take an art group together or something like that. But also when they show up, like you saw on Black History Month, the closing ceremony, all those youth that get to share what the history of women looked like, also give them opportunity to show up as leaders and encourage them, because sometimes they're hesitating and it takes that little nod just says, I believe in you. And then they show up and they do it. They're like, oh yeah, I'm pretty great at this. I'm like, yes, you are. So I think it's creating that space for leadership. It's acknowledging it. It's telling them that it's going to look different than their friends, but it's also celebrating it loud and proud.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, that's so powerful. And, you know, if there's, you know, we talk about 3 powerful words, I love you, but I believe in you are 4 very powerful words. So thank you for sharing that, Solange. And Ryan, you know, there's good news, right? So if you don't get that exposure or get to be in classes like Miss Phil would lead, or Solange's programs, and you grow up into an adult and maybe your leadership style is not quite as effective. Is there hope?
I would sure like to think so. And yes, most definitely. I mean, the statistics out there around leadership effectiveness is really abysmal, right? So for example, 60% of employees say that their manager damages their self-esteem. 65% of employees say that they would rather have a new boss compared to more pay. And so what we find is that most people are not wired for leadership greatness. That is something we've got to step into. So here's one of my biggest pet peeves about the leadership development space is most people, the question that they're asking is, what do I need to do to be an effective leader? Now, it's not a terrible question because we can come up with some really good answers. But here's what I believe is that leadership isn't about doing things. It's about being somebody, that other people want to follow. And so in order for us to elevate as a leader, we've got to focus more on our being than we do our doing.
Oh, I love that. That is so great. And what a great way to wrap up this segment before we go to commercial. Phil, Solange, Ryan, thank you so much. Thank you. Phil and Solange will be back. Ryan, thank you for joining us. And I look forward to interviewing you again in the future. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This world is changing more and more every day, and we've decided to change right along with it. My name is Dr. Lauren Michaels Harris, and I'm the president of Trajectory TV Network. At Trajectory, our vision is to provide a comfortable, creative platform for top content creators and storytellers from around the globe. We're also dedicated to providing this world with content that is healing, educational, empowering, exciting, and above all else, entertaining and transparent. So right now, I invite all of you who believe yourselves to be global game changers to use the link found here and simply take a chance. Schedule a virtual chat where you'll have the opportunity to share your vision for your very own global television show with me, the network president. So use that link, and together, let's begin changing and healing this world, one story at a time. And remember, whether you have years of experience in front of the camera or zero experience, it doesn't matter. What matters the most is your desire to share great content through television and a willingness to share it with passion and with purpose. You might ask, how do I know if I've fallen in love with my purpose and my purpose has fallen in love with me? It's easy when you've lost your voice because you just can't stop talking about it. I'll see you soon.
Welcome back for segment 2 of the Light Your Leadership Summit. So segment 2 is all about creating workplace cultures of caring and purpose. So first we're going to bring on, the first panelist is Magdalene Kuman. Hi, Magdalene. Hi. How are you?
Hello, Lisa. I'm great. Thank you for having me here. This is amazing.
Wonderful. So Magdalene is the Interim Associate Director at the Conference Board of Canada's Immigration Knowledge Area, with 25 years of experience in economic integration of newcomers and refugees in Canada. Also, she was the previous Senior Director at WorldSkills Employment Center. She developed training, curriculum that engaged local employers. She's worked a lot directly with new immigrants, and she holds a master's in migration and diaspora studies. So Magdalene has also received 2 awards for community leadership in Ottawa. She's an entrepreneur. She's running Mags Magazine. She does Mags Artwear. So she has designed a line of clothing. And she also does management consulting. So Mags Management Consulting. Welcome, Magdalene.
Well, thank you, Lisa. You do amazing work, and thank you for your leadership as well along the journey. Thank you.
My pleasure. Wonderful to collaborate with such amazing people. So our next guest is Natalie Roy-Patnaud. She is the Director of Real Estate Management within the National Capital Commission of Canada. She leads a team of 20 plus highly skilled and talented people. They're growing. So if anybody's watching this from Canada, get in touch with Natalie if you've got real estate knowledge and want to work for an amazing person. So they work in the areas of leasing and project property and account management. She's an accredited Canadian residential appraiser and an appraiser at the Canadian Institute. She also has worked for 30 years in the valuation industry. She had the opportunity to serve as a Canadian diplomat and deliver a number of complex and innovative projects around the globe. So welcome, Natalie.
Thank you, Lisa. Very happy to be here today. Thank you.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to have you here. So next up is Brad Bonneau. Hi, Brad.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Very good. Such an honor to have you here, Brad. So Brad is the CEO of Aspire Interactive Group. He has extensive experience as a top leader and has founded telecom companies, led telecom companies, including founder of Magellan Hills Technology, and he was CEO at Princeton Hosted Solution. After 32 years in the industry, Brad has recently decided to focus on his passion for mentoring and being mentored. And that's how he started Aspire in 2022. And we're so glad he did. Thank you so much, Brad.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
Wonderful. And next, we're going to bring on Glodine Champion. Hi, Glodine.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
So excited to have you here. Glodine, it's amazing. You're a 2-time TEDx speaker, most powerful speeches. I watched them over again. She's a keynote speaker, a Six Sigma black belt. She has over 20 years of experience as a Lean Six Sigma leader, a DEI disruptor, and has over 20 years of experience working in the industry. She specializes in continuous improvement of self and leaders, teams, processes, and organizations. She is also the celebrated author of the award-winning coming-of-age novel, Salmon Croquettes. And I have to mention Tashi, because Tashi is Glodine's pup. She's adorable, and she's almost in all her calls. So I wouldn't be surprised if she showed up today too. So welcome,
yeah,
Glodine.
she's right here. Hopefully she stays quiet.
It's okay if she doesn't. We passed COVID. We're all used to it. One of the things while we're conducting research for this segment is that jumped out at me. There was a headline I read by the Cultures Partners. So they wrote a report in 2022, and it really jumped out at me. It said, employee engagement is DEAD, dead. So as you can imagine, someone who works in leadership and employee engagement workplaces, I was like, what? So if we think about it though, I think what they were getting at is the traditional employee engagement that we do. We do surveys, which are seen mostly through a productivity lens. As though that's all that's mattered. The questions sometimes can be manipulated. The data can be broken down into very small segments so that, problem areas can be identified where, people are maybe not so happy, and it's not necessarily viewed as something that needs to be addressed. So there's many things that are problematic with it. So I believe that's what they were getting at. And, this employee engagement field has been booming for years. And I remember, some of the first Gallup surveys would indicate that there's about 13% of engagement levels back in 2023. Now they've gone up to 23% where people are engaged. That means the rest, do the math, are not globally. And, that's not something necessarily to celebrate. So we need to do something different. And what they're saying is that we need to focus more on purpose and meaning. And it's interesting because back in 2015, when I was being interviewed by Joel Roberts about my book, Light a Fire in Their Hearts, we talked about how people are looking for meaning rather than money. And not that money's not important, but we also need meaning. So now that, we've looked at this shift in looking at what employee engagement is and the focus on purpose, let's talk about all the awesome panelists here, because I know that you're all focused based on purpose and meaning. So Magdalene, you've led phenomenal teams that were able to build highly successful programs for empowering newcomers quickly. Like within 2 weeks, you had a 6-month program. I was there, I witnessed it, virtually out of thin air. And all your team was so wonderful. What do you think was the secret to your success?
Well, Lisa, thank you so much. I'll put it down to 3 things. First of all, the mindset of the leader is very important in believing that you have the capacity and ability to lead the team and to know that you have values as well that is easily integrated into them. Secondly, we need to recruit the right people for the right job. When I did my MBA, one of the things that I learned was that 30%, a company can achieve 30% greater profit if the team works well. So I use tools to recruit the right people for the right job, because too often we have square pegs in the round holes. And the third thing that I would say is that we all need to feel appreciated, loved, accepted. So I can accept people where they are with their abilities, knowing that they have the potential for them to grow their skills even bigger than it is, and to be able to provide these opportunities for growth. So in leading teams, what I bring and help people to develop, it's synergy with each other. That one, they are not working alone, but we have a team group effort with blended synergies that can be integrated into the workplace and make all of us feel that we are being valued, we are contributing, and we are living from a sense of purpose with the clients whom we serve.
And those are such great practical, principles to think about, right? Making sure that people are in the right roles. And I'm sure Glodine really loved the fact you said love and care for your people. I know there's a instant connection there for sure. So thank you for that. For Natalie, having worked with you and seeing you on your leadership journey, back we met CMHC in 1999, I think it was, at Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, and to see where you are today as director leading a team at the National Capital Commission, I would consider you definitely someone who has tendencies and characteristics of an elevated leader. So what are some of the things that you're doing to help engage employees with purpose?
Thank you, Lisa. It's interesting that it's only 23% that think that engagement is still alive. For me, it's something that is really at the forefront of everything I do. And I don't think that as a leader, you can be successful if you're not engaging. I think it's important to be genuinely interested in what your employees are doing, in the work that you're doing, and taking the time to sit with them and to learn from them. And often, people will look at me and they say, oh, I know you're busy. I know you're busy. I'm never too busy to have a conversation with someone who wants to have a conversation with me. It's important to listen to them, because when they talk about their work, they'll bring about challenges. They'll also bring about opportunities. They'll tell you things you don't know. You'll find things in the conversation that you can maybe find some tools to help them, to motivate them. And I always say, if you have 5 minutes, what is it that I need to know in that 5 minutes? For your work, for me as the leader of the group, for the organization. And so I always leave that with people, that there's always a 5-minute window that anybody can have with me to tell me whatever it is that they want to share, so that I can support them. And I always look at it that, I see what I can accomplish with what I know, but imagine what you can accomplish with what you don't know, that you can learn from your employees. And so for me, it's really a partnership. It's about taking away the titles and the layers. And, we're all in this together, and people really feel that they have my support.
I love how you focus on making time for your employees.
Always.
And you see it as an investment, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they feel that, they're being listened to. And I've often had people say to me, like, this is the first time I sit down with a director. And, you know, I find that sad, because there's so much that as a director that you can learn from what people are, you know, we're all contributing to the same end goal at the end of the day. And I need them to be able to perform. And so I always make time for anybody who wants my time.
Wow, wow. And you know, you also said something in there about you know, they learned from you, but you also learned from them, which ties in really well with our next guest, which Brad, because Brad, when he talks about, you know, his Aspire Legends program, he talks about, you know, I mentor them and they mentor me kind of thing. So Brad, can you tell us a little bit more about why, you know, mentorship is so important?
Sure, Lisa. I think, you know, as I went through my career, you think about so many folks that helped you along the way and that mentored me and helped me, that I wouldn't have been able to learn it on my own. And so, you know, mentoring is something that it's sort of a win-win-win. It's a multi-win for everyone involved. And so for the mentor, they have all this knowledge that they, you know, want to share. Sometimes they're too busy to share, but if they get an opportunity to do it, they want to share. It's very common for mentors to, I know with myself, the first person I ever mentored, I asked after a couple of months, are you getting anything out of this? And I said, because I'm really getting a lot. So I'm hoping I'm providing some value to you. And I really look at it as when you are mentoring, you are creating your legacy. And, you know, as you teach, those folks will then also become mentors. And, you know, a long time from now, your ideas are still being expressed. And as someone that's being mentored, you're just getting knowledge that you would never be able to figure out on your own. It would just be so difficult to do. So, so I always look at it as there are no losers in mentoring relations. It's always positive. It's always good. You can always learn from someone, and you can always teach. And so I enjoy sort of mentoring, and I enjoy being mentored too. You know, the roles reverse.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful notion. And you know, you're right, because I know I carry the voices of my mentors in my mind and in my heart when I'm walking around trying to figure out life, right, and work. So it is creating a legacy, because it does stay with them. So thank you for doing that kind of work. Do you have like one tip that you can offer to people who are becoming mentors?
I think it's just be incredibly genuine, and you don't have to be the authority and the person that knows it all. It's okay to say that's something that I don't, you know, that maybe we can figure out together, you know, even though I've been doing this a long time. There's nothing wrong with that. So and mentorees should be peers. They really should. You're not their parent. Right. You know, you're
right. Remember that. Sometimes it's easy to forget, but that's a very good point.
It can be, especially, you know, if there's an age gap, and, you know, I have to pull myself back and say, you know, we're not in that relationship. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's such great advice. And, you know, I like that you said, you know, we're all need to be authentic, because we're all different, and diversity and all that stuff, which brings us to our next guest. Glodine, because this is all about, you know, creating a caring culture. So let's play a video clip of Glodine from her TEDx talk.
So racism has space to breathe. And racism is learned behavior. We're not designed to hate or mistreat one another. That's a choice people make. Just like systemic racism isn't some untouchable machine. It's made up of individuals who choose to do harm. We know better. So we should make better choices and then hold ourselves accountable to them. Starting with putting race out of our misery and creating a new social construct. Care. Care allows us to lead unconditionally with love. It starts, though, with you making a commitment to love yourself. Because when you love you, you can love me despite our differences. You know how I know? Because I love me so much. I can love all of y'all just as you are.
Wow. Wow. And I love you, Glodine. I mean, I can feel that speech, you know, I can feel it in my heart. So tell us a little bit about your journey and, you know, across the US, and I'm not going to give any spoilers. So tell us a bit about your journey and, you know, how, like, what are some of the lessons that you gained out of that can help leaders?
First thing, I always say this, I've been saying it forever. There is no work self and home self, right? You are who you are, and you should show up that authentically in the workplace. What I learned from that drive, I live in Monterey, California, which is predominantly white. And I took this drive at a time when I didn't feel safe, which is what I say in my talk. And I knew two things for a fact. I could not get in my car and drive across country with the fear that something was going to happen to me and then be surprised when it happened. The other thing was that I was afraid to talk to people because I was making my own judgments about who wanted to talk to me and who didn't because of the color of my skin. And while I have 50 documented proof, I mean, I've proof of the 50 people I spoke to over 200 people. I went to a party one night. I was in, you know, public spaces where I didn't have my phone and I didn't have my card. But what I recognized was, in the South specifically, not one person turned me away. And not one person said they didn't want to talk to me or made me feel like I was bothering them. And I know that people are who they really are when you catch them on the weekend in their personal space, right? Mm-hmm. And so I feel like we need to make it okay by staying in the conversation. One of the things that happens all the time, and I know I got a sign on my forehead that says, talk to me, say whatever you want. I'm open. But white people, when they meet me, sometimes feel the need to other me, remind me that I'm Black, just in case I didn't remember. But what I have learned is, rather than getting frustrated about it, I mean, it is frustrating. But when I have been able to just stay in the conversation, I realized they didn't know how else to enter the conversation, because we've been conditioned to with all the biases and all the nonsense around race in and of itself. People don't know how to have genuine conversations, and they take that into the workplace. And then people who I will say don't have the patience, because again, it is exhausting to wear this skin that I'm in. Some people don't have the patience for people's inability to know where to start. But I think that it requires our patience. Love is patience, right? Love is allowing someone to say what they mean without cutting them off, giving them the opportunity to know that they are heard. Doesn't mean we have to agree with each other. It doesn't mean that I have to prove that I'm right and you're wrong, because at the end of the day, there is no right and wrong. What's right for you may be wrong for me, and vice versa. So how can that? It's like it cancels each other out. What's most important is giving each other the space to say our piece, and then the patience to hear somebody else's viewpoint. Again, not to change minds, but just to have, you can't have a conversation in a vacuum, right? And I think, especially in the workplace, it's harder to do that, especially as leaders, because sometimes our people don't say what we want them to say, or they don't feel the same way about what we feel is the best thing to do. And working in process, trying to get leaders to understand that you cannot change the process from the top and push it down, because you don't live in the process, right? The people in the process know the process better. You got to trust them. And you have to be willing to listen to what they say isn't working in the process, right? You don't have to agree with it. You just have to hear it.
And I think that's a very important lesson and a message. Listening. Don't have to agree with it. Just listen, hold space, right? Rather than take it personally.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Glodine, you're doing such important work. Keep spreading the love. We so need it. We so need it.
Thank
And
you.
so all our panelists will be back in another segment. So this is, I want to thank you all, Magdalene, Natalie, Brad, and Glodine. Such a great, powerful segment about creating cultures where people are caring and they're focused on purpose. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa Anna.
Let's go to break. Wonderful. Hey, we're back with the same panel. Nice to see you guys again. Here we go. We're just going to switch over panels now. We'll see you soon. All right. So next we're going to bring on David, Phil, and Natalie again. So let's bring them on. Dave, there's Phil. We'll bring on David. I'm going to give you a little intro. So David is CEO and co-founder of clearword.com. He is a repeat entrepreneur with a track record of creating successful tech and AI startups. So this is what this segment is all about, is about the impact of AI on workplaces and leadership too, because we have to adapt. So his expertise spans various aspects of the startup world and deep technology. It's deep. It's not surface, it gets deep. So as a servant leader, love that, David has valuable insights to offer on managing teams, strategies, and anything related to AI and machine learning. And he's zooming in from Austria, right?
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, that's right.
Welcome, David. So you've already met Phil and Natalie. So, I think when I think about AI, so I read that Elon Musk is afraid of it. So if Elon Musk, who sends cars into space, and he's saying that at an MIT conference, he actually said this, that AI is humanity's biggest existential threat, and compared it to summoning the demon. So that made me a little nervous, I have to say. Maybe that's why in such a hurry to get to Mars. But you know what would be funny? If ChatGPT beat him there. That would be really cool. So Elon's scared. There's a lot of other thought leaders and world leaders who are afraid of AI. There's even a CBS article that said that AI eliminated 4,000 jobs in May alone in the US. So I'm hoping, David, that you have some good news for us about AI, just to kind of take off some of that fear that's going on.
Yeah, I guess we could start with, AI will take all our jobs. I think that's a good segue into the fears around AI. So obviously artificial intelligence and kind of other tech advancements, they are transforming the way we work, but it's important to understand that it doesn't equate to a complete replacement of humans in the workforce. Like the notion of AI and technology taking all the jobs is, it's a common concern kind of as old as time. But what this view kind of often overlooks is that there's a lot of opportunities and transformations that these technologies bring about, right? So if you look at history, this is something I like doing because I try to put, I imagine we're almost inconsequential in this world. So I look at all the other times there has been moments kind of like this in the past where, a new technology came to life and it didn't necessarily lead to job destruction, but rather to job evolution and job creation, right?
Mhm.
So let's look at history just for fun, right? So for me, the invention of the refrigerator was a great example of technology that completely transformed industries and daily life. And it sparked a range of fearful reactions, basically. Before the use of kind of the fridge, people used methods like ice houses, ice boxes, root cellars, to keep food cool. Now, the thing is, these methods depended a lot on natural sources of coolness or the kind of regular delivery of ice, which was in its own a huge industry.
Right.
So ice was kind of, ice was harvested in the winter, stored in large kind of houses, and then shipped all around. So what happened then, like the fear was that the refrigeration technology threatened the jobs related to ice harvesting, right? And the delivery industry, which was a significant source of employment, especially in colder regions, was frightened. This also happened with, there were health concerns that what if cooled air might be unhealthy and will affect the quality of your food? And people were also just resistant to change. And that happens. But, in terms of jobs,
I feel better already. I think I'm going to sleep better tonight, knowing that, because it's true, right? Look to history. Every time we had any new kind of major, massive invention or revolution, industrial age, all that, there was always resistance to it and fear, lots of fear, and we managed through it. So I think we need to look at the human spirit and the fact that we're resilient, and we'll figure it out.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we'll just call Arnold Schwarzenegger to come back and help us out. So
there's so many examples that there's no need to be fearful. It's going to evolve, not destroy.
Love that. It's going to evolve, not destroy. So can you give an overview or like just a couple of tidbits on how traditional companies can use AI and compact, like if you can just give an idea of like what the impact would be like in their daily work, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. Like traditional companies across any industry almost can significantly benefit from implementing AI. Now, there's one thing I keep telling is AI is not the solution, it's a tool. And you still need to find what the problem you're solving is before you apply AI to it. Whether it's AI, whether it's a hammer or a nail, you need to focus on the problem. And the problem is really hard. But in terms of kind of a few examples where AI can be used in such contexts to positively impact leadership, operational efficiency immediately. AI can automate repetitive routine tasks, which kind of allows employees to focus on more complex value-adding tasks. What humans are good at? Arguing, creating, figuring really random things out. And that's, AI allows us to do this.
Right.
I would do a pitch about our product, but no.
But
decision
really
making. Yeah.
Well, I know a little bit about your product, and it assists with meetings. So like people don't like meetings, right? There's an expression, death by meeting. And here you have the ability to, maybe synthesize those, make them shorter, more meaningful, or not have them at all, so that you can focus on brainstorming, problem solving, like the real guts that will get you ahead.
Well, see, that's exactly right. People hate meetings, but I don't think they actually hate meetings. We love meetings. We love talking to humans. What we hate is everything else around meetings. The 3-minute delay, the audio failing, the person who didn't put the order in, that sort of stuff. But yeah, with our product, that's basically what we built, right? So as you said, it synthesizes meetings, extracts action items, all that sort of stuff. But now we just released something to allow those companies basically to automate all those routine tasks. So when you and me have a conversation, right, about building something or let's say launching a new webinar, that work is done. We are talking about this. It doesn't make sense to turn around then after a call or after a meeting to go and type emails. So this new product we kind of added is, based on your conversation, compose an email to my CFO to update her about this. And the AI just does that. So what that means is I get to focus on the problems of growing my business and the vision and executing on the problem rather than typing emails after having discussed those emails in another meeting.
Wow. That's impressive. It's okay if you put a plug. It's all right.
Well, I had it as kind of as an example. I have so many examples on top of my head, and I just figured, okay, I might as well plug it.
Yeah, no, of course, because it's important for us to learn about these new tools that are out there because they're completely new. Like to know that I can go to a meeting and then I can turn around and the AI will create an action. It's not just that they're transcribing, they're going way beyond that. They're like creating action lists and plans and all that stuff so that you can keep thinking. while it's
That's
doing
right.
the grunt work, right? So that follows up meetings, all those follow-ups, the meeting about the follow-ups. So Natalie, tell us a little bit more, because you're working in an organization right now and you're leading a team and trying to figure out how all these tools can play out for you. Can you give us some ideas of how you're bringing staff along and introducing them to this?
Yeah, this is a really interesting topic. I must just admit that I knew very little about it until about 4-6 weeks ago. It's something that I'm actually exploring in terms of, well, first of all, understanding what it is. So I guess demystifying a little bit what David was alluding to a little bit before. I don't see it as a threat at all. I see it as a tool for employees to find, health, life, and work balance. Employees, and we've seen the workload increase. Our workload is not going to dwindle down, and I'm not necessarily going to have the ability to hire people and more people and more people. And so it's about working with the staff resources that I have, but also using AI as a tool for them to focus, as you mentioned, David, on the things that they are good at. So definitely looking at, some reports that can be drafted and working off some templates and that kind of thing, where they become the editor of the report, but not necessarily reinventing the wheel every time they create something. I'm in the field of real estate. So, we negotiate. That can't be automated. We deliver construction projects that can't be automated. You have to write project briefs and things. Yes, that's where you get that support, right? And so I'm in an industry where the people are at the forefront of everything and they mobilize everything that we do. The AI is a really good opportunity to add this as a tool. And so as I was kind of understanding how this could probably play into our work, I was discussing with someone and I said, I know I'm going to date this, and for anybody who's listening, but this is kind of when we went from the typewriter, putting that one page into the typewriter and then adding another page for page 2. Then the computer came along and I could write pages and pages and pages and hit print, and it would just go to the thing, to the printer. This is the same thing. This is a tool that is really about how we can improve the time of our staff for them to work into what they're good at, and really having something that supports them, and maybe to bring an 8-hour day into a 4-hour day, and then they can put the other 4 hours to better use. So we're currently exploring how
collaboration,
we can integrate this,
and building relationships.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. So I'm seeing this as a real opportunity, something really exciting that will bring a lot more balance to the work life.
Hearing you two talk about it is really making me excited about it. So Phil, how is AI going to change the education system?
Well, in the thousands of educators that I have trained across the globe, there is not one that has not shared, I don't have time for lesson planning. I never have enough time to plan meaningful lessons, even though my heart is in the right place, but it's just so much work. AI is the solution for that. Teachers can truly focus on the magic of teaching and get content generated like this for not just standalone lessons, because my platform in education is one thing needs to connect to the next, which is what my teaching framework, the PACT, is all about. Kids need to understand the relevance of things. So it solves that problem with time management. And also, no one is ever going to replace the rapport and relationship a teacher has directly with students. And that speaks to what both David and Natalie are talking about. Like, now you could really focus on that, because I think you've heard me say this in other guest appearances, Lisa, that kids don't care how much you know. They want to know how much you care. Right?
Oh, love that. Love that.
It's really about.
And like by using all these tools, it allows the teachers then to spend more time on the leadership abilities and the social emotional skills and the human interaction piece that's so important. So, you know what? I think it's turning out to be a good news story. So let's just keep it in check, make sure nothing gets out of hand, but let's embrace it, learn how. And if you have any questions, contact experts just like David and others who are helping us to lead the way. Thank you so much. Phil, I know you have to go, so it's been wonderful to have you here. And thank you, Dave and Natalie. We'll see you soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great time. See you in a bit. Wonderful, wonderful. So now we're bringing back David, Magdalene, and Natalie to talk, and also Brad, I believe, right? We're bringing Brad back, right? About being the generation. Yes. So we're talking about, being role models for the next generation of leaders. And I think it's so important to think about that, because we lose sight of it sometimes, that we're here for a certain period of time, and then there's the next generation. And it's part of our responsibility to create that legacy, to support them and to help them grow into wonderful people who want to, help make the world a better place just by being the best version of themselves and contributing. And just like Ryan said earlier, putting the focus not just on themselves, on the other as well. So we're going to take a look at the next video, bringing back the two leadership correspondents from the future, Noah and Ava. Let's bring them back. Oh, by the way, we didn't script this. This is all them doing improv. So it's incredible. Again, underlines why it's so important. Well, maybe we'll bring in Noah and Ava in a minute or two. Let's get started. Oh, here they are.
Ava, or correspondence on leadership of the future. Both of you did such a good job with the first part. So now I like to invite you to think about, what questions do you have for grown-up leaders who are on the show with us today?
So my questions are, how do you treat people?
And you, Noah, what question do you have?
How do you think your employees feel on what you're doing?
How do your employees feel about what you're doing? What's your other question?
It's Noah who has one.
Okay, let's hear it, Noah.
How do you treat your employees?
How do you treat your employees? So
I
how do you...
said that. No, you're okay.
So how do you...
No, how do you feel?
How do you feel about what?
About your employees, is what I said.
Thank you so much. We're going to relay those questions back to our guests. And before we go, I want to thank you and ask you, where did you learn about leadership?
Oh, we learned it from Light a Fire in Your Book. It's called Light a Fire in Your Book.
Oh, you guys are amazing. And I also know that you learned it a lot from your mom and your dad. Andrea and Dan, congratulations. You've raised great leaders. Can't wait to see how they're going to make the world a better place in the future. Love you. Mwah.
Mwah.
I promise you I didn't tell them to do that. So they're my grandniece and nephew, my niece Andrea's kids, my sister Emily's grandkids. And I just have to say, when we stop and ask children about leadership, it's like they know. And I think we need to do that more. So let's answer their questions, because I think they were very, very good questions. And then Brad, I'll just get you to comment on something at the end. But Magdalene, how do you treat people and your employees? Oh, Magdalene, you're muted.
So let us start, Lisa, by saying, first of all, I go back to the mindset of the leader. I think I have a natural inclination to love people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think wherever I go, that is the thing, the energy I want to step ahead of me before I even have any interaction. So how I treat people is the way I also want people to treat me. I love people. I embrace them with both the perfections and imperfections, because I believe that we are all on a growing journey. And for my staff and anybody who has worked with me, I hope that they can, I think they will tell you that I can embrace them where they are, and we can move forward together in terms of learning, development, and also staying true to their own purpose.
I think Noah and Ava would approve. Definitely.
Yeah. I hope one is.
So Natalie, how do your employees feel about what you're doing?
Well, we have, we're in a hybrid workplace. So the employees are in the office at least 2 days a week. And then the other days are optional for working from home. And I think that, what you see in the days in the office is there's a nice vibe and a good buzz in the office. And I can say that you see it online and in the screens, but it's not the same as when people are together. And I walk in the office and I see smiles. I see happy people. I see people who are happy to be at work and doing the work that they're doing. For me, I know I bring a high level of energy. I had someone say to me, "Oh, your boss is pretty energetic." Who said that to me the other week. This part of it is my nature, but same as Magdalene, I love people. I enjoy the people I work with. And I think it's that kind of energy that you bring. But also, I think we talk about the work, but there's also a social aspect that always needs to be part of the workplace. Whether it's, taking them out for coffee, whether it's creating opportunities to socialize. I think that too is part of showing the human side of not just the management side and, the objectives we need to meet and all that kind of stuff, but really creating a social space for people to really be themselves and for everybody to just kind of blend and engage, but at a very human level. And I think that that's, what I bring and how people connect. But like I say, I like it when I see smiles. I think it tells me we're doing something good.
Love that. And how about you, David? How do you feel about your employees?
I love them. It's simple as that. I absolutely love the people I work with, and I trust them also, which is really, really important. Trust. I build cultures based not on office or remote kind of offsites, but based on trust and accountability. Personally, I practice extreme accountability. Everything that goes wrong is my fault. And my team knows that. They know that there are also, I allow them to screw things up. It happens. It's okay. Sometimes I even put them in situations where I know they will fail. And then I coach them through it. I don't have all the answers, but I help them kind of work through that, and I listen. Now, I'm someone who speaks a lot. I cannibalize conversations, and I know this. So how I feel about them, I feel like I have to listen more, and that's exactly what I do. I love to see them grow, and that's all it is. I just love them, and I want them to grow.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And when you hear this, Brad, because you were a CEO for like over 25 years, like what do you feel like? Are there differences between the time when you first started and some of the conversation you're hearing now?
Yeah, it has transformed, dramatically. I think back to the .com days, 2000, and we had in our office, my company at the time, private equity backed. And, there were folks, playing foosball and hacky sack in the office. And frankly, being a young manager, leader, my own capital invested in the business, and even worse, took other people's money. My style was pretty hard nosed. I sort of took honor in that I was known as, he's firm, but he's fair. And that was a badge of honor for me. Now, that style doesn't work anymore. Fear and intimidation and, that sort of stuff doesn't make people happy. It can get short-term results, but it's not going to be a long-standing thing. And so, over time you have to adapt, and you have to learn that when you put your people first, and when your people are happy, you don't have turnover. You have happy paying customers, which are the lifeblood of your business, right? You don't have customers, you don't have income coming in. That's not a business. And your employees are critical in making that happy. And an unhappy employee will just relay that. The customer will feel it right through whatever medium that they're dealing with them. So I think the world has changed quite a bit since when I first got into business to where it is today. And, I've seen people embrace it, and I've seen people that have said, I'm not doing this. And, and I will tell you, those folks have struggled, and they've struggled to sort of stay in their roles.
Wow.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, let's open it up to the panel in terms, because I think it's so important to have someone who's had such a long career building different companies, having this experience of, I started out this way, now I transformed, and I've kind of basically seen the light of what the truth is. And to have someone to give that witness to that experience and that transformation, I think is super important, because like you said, Brad, there are a lot of people who are not embracing this. I know I get it when I deliver talks, or most people are supportive, of course, about compassion, courage, and all that stuff. But there's always somebody who says, well, what about the shareholder? What about this? What about that? And the truth is, the stats are supporting. The Gallup did, in their forecast, they say that we're spending $7.3 trillion a year is going to waste globally because of low engagement levels. So think about that's like how much? 10% of the world GDP. Like, it's incredible. So we need to start looking at the math. They're always telling us, look at the math. Well, let's look at the math. The math is telling us that putting people first, taking care of the planet and the future is super important. So thank you for sharing that, because I think it's very important from someone who's been as successful as you with a lifelong career that you're validating that. So thank you. Yeah. So yeah, what a great segment. Now, let's bring on for the last segment, we're going to bring Solange back in, and we're going to talk about how do we navigate this world of putting people first, because and Claudine as well, welcome back, Claudine. How do we navigate this? Because there are naysayers, and it's hard to kind of stand up to that. I know a lot of heart-inspired leaders who are very brilliant, like they're brilliant. So they're not just heart-inspired. Of course, their mind is very sound and they're strategic and all that. Sometimes they hold back from sharing how they really feel. So, like David, what you shared, and Natalie and Magdalene, and also Brad, takes a lot of courage. So let's talk a little bit more about how do we navigate putting people and planet first? So planet being the environment, and caring about not just people, but also other living beings. So Brad, just coming back to you, what does it mean when we say put people first in business? And if you could give some brief examples of what that could look like to make it more concrete.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think business, and especially as a being part of if publicly held company, or a private equity backed company, profits have are always been traditionally the single most the most important thing. And I think, you know, what more and more leaders are starting to realize is the profits will come if you put people first, right? And those people can be your employees, but they can also be a vendor that you see is not treating their employees well, or substandard pay, or working in, you know, conditions that are not quality conditions. You know, companies now have to start to say that doesn't work for me. I can't do business with you. You know, I had a company, one of our vendors the other day, send me an invoice that was this big. They send it every month. It's 1,500 pages. Now, it's not only unwieldy for us to deal with that, but, you know, I was like, you know, somebody in the office said they're killing a tree every time they send us a bill. We basically had to tell them, if you can't figure out how to stop this, we may have to find a different vendor, because it's just all around, you know, bad. So, I mean, I think a couple of examples, you know, I remember paternity is one, for example, that I look at. And, you know, I remember the first time I ever heard it was, you know, a while, you know, probably 10 years ago. And I was, you know, baffled by that. You know, I got a person's voice and said, what is that? Now, especially having gone through, you know, having kids, you realize how critically important that is, because you know, you start thinking about someone having to take their baby that's 6 weeks old because their maternity is up, and they have to take them, you know, take the child to daycare. I mean, it's incredibly hard on someone. And then you want them to come to work and perform. Like they're on the top of the world. So I think that's one. And then I think the other one that we look at a lot, that I look at a lot, is companies that have made every employee a shareholder and a partner. And I think those are things that I look at when, you know, we had a very rough time in one of my businesses that ultimately worked out, but I was getting out of a cab with two other colleagues, and, you know, I said, this might not work. This business we may fail. And the one gentleman said to me, well, we're going to do it together.
Yeah.
And that company became an incredibly successful business, went public and all that. But you know, I'll never, ever forget that. You know, it was, we are in this together. It was not, well, I'm not going to fail, you guys will, right? You know, it was, we're going to do this together.
And it comes back to that shared accountability that David was talking about, and also pulling together to pull through difficult times. You don't feel alone. And that is putting people first, making sure that they know that, you know, if they make a mistake or whatever, like, we're in it together. We're going to get through it. And just to get back to the point of the shareholder and profit, you're right. Like, it actually, it increases profit. So I have a contact that I've met in my leadership journey. Her name is Dora Lutz. So she's a professor at Purdue. She does a lot of research in aspirational business. She also wrote a book, The Aspirational Business. And so in her studies, they're finding that employers who put, or I should say companies who put people first, who think about the environment and the planet, they're practicing ESG, which is environmental, social, and corporate governance. They get a 34% return on investment on that. That's pretty significant, you know? And there's more research coming out as we speak. So let's keep an eye on that. And I think that's a biggest myth bust that's happening now. Is like, it's you get ahead by putting people and planet first, not despite it. So let's keep that in mind. So, Godine, in your opinion, you know, what does it mean to put people first, and like, how does that play out in the work that you do?
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. It's funny because I think putting people first means taking you out of it, right? Ooh. You can't put someone first if you're all in it. And I just did some work with a company, and this is not uncommon. I said it earlier. It's not uncommon for leaders to think they know the process better. One of the best ways to put people first is to ask questions. How do you feel? How are things going for you? It's another great way to put people first is to show your gratitude for them. I think it's so easy for leaders to blame people. I tell them all the time, the people are not the reason your process is broken. Your process is broken because your process is broken for whatever reason. But it's not the people that you should be blaming for this. You should be trying to help them make it better. So asking questions, being curious about your employees, not the superfluous, how's your day? And then, you know, giving a person 30 seconds to answer the question before you throw what you really came to ask them. Like genuinely trying to get to know the people who work for you because they're the ones making you the money. If you could do it by yourself, you'd still be a solopreneur. But now you have an organization, you have people that you've hired, you've brought them in because they've got skills. So putting them first is letting them do their job and supporting them in it rather than pointing out their failures or leading them through fear. I think there was a lot of leaders. I told somebody this the other day. There's 1 billion leadership books, and probably a fraction of that number are really great leaders because they read the book and they get it. My favorite book is Leadership and Self-Deception. And when I'm coaching leaders that lead by ego, I love to give them that book because I know they're going to judge the book by the cover, and then they miss out on the lessons that they could learn, one of which is how to put people first.
Wow, love that. And you know what my takeaway, and you said so many great things, is that like when you ask people how they are, actually stay with them. Don't cut them off when they're answering, right? Just try to rush them through it. Don't say, oh, hello, how are you? And just like not really mean it, right? Like,
yeah, I actually last week was working with someone. One of the leaders walked by and kind of, you know, hey, how's it going? And the guy went to answer him and he kept walking. And so I said, well, since he asked, how are you doing? His aunt was in the hospital. He was dealing with a whole lot of family health issues. He was being responsible for getting his grandmother to the doctor. He was being stuck in the room with me for a week to improve the process. And once I realized that, I was like, listen, if you want, you can just come, give what you need to give for this, and then go do what you have to do for your family. That's way more important. But if the leader had just paused for a second, I don't know that he would have told him what he was dealing with, but I think he would have felt like the guy really cared, you know? So it's not hard. What I'm saying is not hard. That's the other thing.
It's not hard. And yet it's so profound. Like the effect of it is so profound when you see people like, you know, conducting focus groups. Sometimes we hear, you know, what do you like least about your work environment? It's not what you think, like I don't get enough pay or anything. It's like my manager doesn't see me. They don't even say hello in the morning.
Right.
That's number one complaint.
Right.
They don't even take the time. They don't care. I'm a number. And when you hear that, it's like so heartbreaking. And then I talk to the manager and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even notice. I was thinking about another meeting or whatnot. So being aware how important you are to your employees, like you mean a lot to them, and they care about what you think about them, and that they care whether or not you care about them. And we need to make that point clear. There needs to be no doubt in that. So thank you for sharing that, Glodine. It's so important. Now, Solange, I was going to ask her a question. Maybe she's having some tech issues. We'll save that for her in a minute. So Natalie, you know, what do you see are some of the biggest challenges and opportunities for leaders within long-established organization to be able to shift? Like, I mean, Brad gave some really good examples about talking about vendors and just being more thoughtful around how we do work. Like, do you have some suggestions too, or some challenges and suggestions?
Yeah, I think, I mean, one of the things is that, you know, there are new fields of studies and new areas that are emerging as the world is evolving, as other things are evolving. You know, there's different focuses that where people have different streams of studies because of where we are today. It means that some of the traditional roles, perhaps we won't get as many people go into that field. And real estate, you know, is something that we're seeing in our field for many years now. And so one of the challenges is definitely succession. succession in getting that level of expertise. We're sort of, feeling it in some areas because, the seasoned people are retiring, people are coming in, but they're not quite at the depth of expertise that they need or that we need, let's say, for different complex assignments. And so the succession and getting people into sort of the traditional fields is a very, very much a reality. And the other is, how do we attract those skill sets? And so people are not necessarily looking to leave from where they are, like to change work necessarily. So the pool is limited in terms of resources. So if then you have to kind of look internally. And I see that as opportunities for our staff in the organization to give them training and development and for their personal and professional growth. And I think it's like, if I sit and I look at, my team and the organization now, I see opportunities for people to grow into higher level positions, whether it's horizontal or vertical, just because of that succession that is difficult from the outside. Then you also need to look at it and plan it from the inside. And that is a challenge at the leadership level because you have to plan it. You have to plan the training and identify those needs. So I think that, it's fascinating that there's different fields that are opening up and that's wonderful. It's just that for more traditional areas or organization, it might bring some other challenges because succession will be an issue.
Wow, that's so many great tips and approaches in there. And Solange, so I just want, if you can maybe help us wrap up here in terms of how can we support emerging leaders, because you work a lot with younger leaders, to be able to evolve and scale their leadership abilities to navigate making these kinds of tough decisions of putting people on planet first. Oh, it looks like maybe Solange is having because she's so amazing and she's delivered talks on this. So we'll have her back some other time, either in the podcast or somewhere else. But who would like to be able to take that? How can we support emerging leaders? Magdalene, any thoughts?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that traditionally we have taught people to believe is that they can only be one thing. And that was the traditional trajectory. If I become a manager, I need to stay a manager for the rest of my life. And I think this current generation that's not necessarily true. It's actually not true. We have leaders today, young people who are entrepreneurs, who are running the passion things. I'm one of these people. I have like several things going on. It does not stop me from being an excellent manager, because all of these are giving me permission to show up in my best self, because I'm utilizing my mind in one way, I'm utilizing my creative passions. And what I want people on my team to do is to bring their whole self to work. I want them to know that in the development of the whole mind, body, soul, and spirit, they're actually serving the earth and serving the planet in a greater way, that they are not limited to being one thing, because that one thing, I think, is probably the reason that people are feeling so limited, especially if they're working under a leader who is a traditional person who thinks that the workplace is only one way. This does not exist anymore, Lisa. And I think for us to be able to keep talented people in the workforce, we need to give them permission to explore all the different aspects of them. I'll give you just a quick, very good example of my son, who's creative. He's a movie person. He's working in a job, but his organization where he's a manager, they recognize that. And you know what they did? They said to him, we'll give you 1 day off every week for you to explore the entrepreneurship part of you that's making movies and films. And you won't believe how much he stepped into a leadership space in his own life and gave back the company a whole lot more, maybe than they ever thought. So being creative as the leader, our workplace at Conference Board has just given us half a day off every week for the rest of the year, for the next year. And that half a day, I want to engage myself myself in my entrepreneurship activities because I can do whatever I want with it. So moving away from this very traditional thing, you have to come to work 7 days a week. You have to work for 35 hours. Someone is marking a timesheet for you to see how, you're doing. Honestly, I'm beginning to think none of these are real indicators of performance. We need to change the way we think about how people show up at work and how we can help them be their best selves so that in turn they can help us raise our profitability within our companies.
I love that. What a great way to wrap it up. And Solange, are you able to chat? Yeah, just say.
Well, I mean, I think everybody summed it up pretty well. For me, what I always go back to is when you create an organization or when you're leading an organization, no matter what it is, ask yourself, how is it making the world a better place all the time? Whether it's in the hospital, whether it's creating computers, whatever it is, how is it making our world a better place? And I think people forget that because we always think of business saying, oh, that's going to make great money. That's going to be popular, or that's going to get a lot of people going. Yes, but we're here for a purpose. We don't just live in this world because it's just a thing we do. It's because we're all contributors of making sure that it's better for everyone. And then when you think about how is it making the world a better place, make sure your employees know that your team know that. So they say, I work at X, Y, and Z company because we're trying to create this change in the world. So it's impacting the lives of these people in this way. And therefore, I belong here. Give them a purpose, give them meaning, and they will move mountains for you in ways that you can never imagine.
Wow. What a wonderful way to close this segment and this show. Thank you so much to all the panelists. It's been an honor, and also to Phil and Ryan who had to leave us. But thank you, each and every one of you. I think you've really helped us to see that while it's been challenging, now as we look towards the future is much brighter in a post-pandemic world if we practice all these things of putting people and planet first. And I just like to, thank you all. Thank you to our sponsors, our viewers. Thank you. And I know that if we implement all these wonderful things that we've heard today, this wisdom, that together we will make the world a better workplace. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And stick around and look for the PDF with everybody's contact information. Thank you. And I think it comes back again to that idea of fear to be vulnerable is I'm going to want everybody to agree with me. So I'm going to create an echo chamber where
oftentimes we tell our high performers after we promote them into these leadership roles, oh, go forth and engage and inspire. What does that mean? Right? Well, it means connecting at the human level through compassion, courage, competence, and helping people feel like they're appreciated, like they belong, like they're included, and that their work matters, that they fit into the purpose of the organization, and they're making a difference in the lives of clients and colleagues, and even senior management. Leadership is so important that we should not just leave it up to chance. Thank you.
If you think we have a crisis in the business world when it comes to something called employee engagement, you're right. Here to shed some light on what's going on and what we can do about it is Lisa Anna Palmer, who is the author of a book called
Light a Fire in Their Hearts.
When you say light a fire